Apart from being a fun way to while away the hours, video games have a tendency to drum up a variety of emotions through dramatic storytelling and character development. After we've spent several days running, jumping, shooting and climbing our way through hordes of angry villains, we start to grow attached to the supporting characters around us, and when they are taken away, it can be okay to feel some sadness watching them fade off screen. It can be even more emotional when the character's death was the only way for you to succeed. Mission completed, on to the next level, but at a cost. We're the heroes after all. It should be us who takes the longest and riskiest steps, but when it's characters we can't control, it can be devastating. That's why every now and then it's good to raise a toast to those who we've played with or as, and pay a tribute to the sacrifices these characters made in service to the story. We've gasped, we've cried, but we've also appreciated and understood the heroic sacrifices these characters have made. I am Kirsten from WhatCulture Gaming, and these are 10 saddest heroic sacrifices in video games.
Before we kick off today's list, I want to give a big shout out to today's list sponsor, Xenonzard. Now, if you don't know who these lovely people are, well, let me answer that question with some more questions. Do you like card games? Hell yeah, you do. Do you like anime? Yes, senpai. And do you like the ever-present threat of AI gaining sentience and taking over the human race? Maybe. Well, let's smash all three of these tenets together, because that is what Xenonzard is. This is the first artificial intelligence card game right on your mobile that's just been released. Here you get to fight alongside and against AI that gives advice and supports you from within the game. I got this cutesy little chap. Can't wait to deal out the deck-based death with them. And with over 500 different cards to choose from, there is so much customization that can go into your decks. And your AI analyzes how you play, giving advice to help you get better, while also growing themselves to match your playstyle. And you can use them to make decks for you, give advice, or even go into battle for you themselves. And when you battle against the AI enough, you can take this online and go against other players in real-time PvP action. So what are you waiting for? Why not use our special download link found in the video description below, and you could be in with a chance of winning up to 240 of the 500 cards, meaning that you'll be entering into the fray with a greater head of steam. Now that sounds pretty goddamn tasty. Much like this list, which is coming up right now.
Number 10, Batman Arkham Knight, Poison Ivy. The Batman Arkham games will most certainly be remembered in video game history. With evolving gameplay, sprawling maps, and three-dimensional storytelling and writing, they were innovative stepping stones in 21st century gaming culture. Developers Rocksteady treated the source material with such care and respect that it's in the third installment, or fourth if you include Batman Arkham Origins, when everything is on the line. It was fitting to see farewells and deaths treated with such sincerity. Poison Ivy as a villain wasn't always the bank-robbing kind. Instead, as a fighter for Mother Nature, we can't help but sympathise with her and see her as something akin to chaotic good, even when she was mind-controlling dudes through pheromones and smooches. When the Scarecrow infects Gotham with a fear toxin and Poison Ivy is discovered to be immune, Batman is forced to team up with her to stop the toxin for good. In order for the plan to work, Poison Ivy uses all her life force to disperse a cure for the toxin. It's one of the few deaths in-game that really sticks and holds up even after 5 years. Number 9, The Last of Us, Tess. The Last of Us has been acclaimed by critics and gamers alike for its incredible story and the relationships between the characters on screen. Of course, the most important and most elaborately dynamic relationship is between Joel and Ellie, but early on we're given a brief glimpse into another relationship. It's established early on that Joel and Tess are partners in crime when it comes to smuggling, and it's heavily implied that the two have something of a casual romance, if not loving connection too. And it's when Tess reveals that she was bitten that we see the first glimpse of vulnerability in Joel for a long time. While Tess remains stoic and accepting of her fate in this sequence, it's Joel whose reactions we emulate. He doesn't know how to react. The realisation that someone he feels affections for will die soon is cutting enough, but Tess redeems the scene brilliantly when she swears to buy Joel and Ellie time to escape the impending army chasing them. Joel's stubbornness to stay and fight with Tess sinks the knife, and we don't buy for a second how cold he appears when really he's tearing apart inside. Number 8, Halo Reach Noble Team. Spin-offs are always a fun exercise in media because they give audiences the opportunity to see a story from an entirely different perspective. And outside of Halo 3 ODST, we as gamers hadn't really seen the UNSC's war against the Covenant from any other eyes apart from John 117. And Halo Reach, or just Reach for short, stands on its own merits and further by giving the players control over Noble 6 and playing alongside a heroic Spartan outfit. In classic Halo fashion, the deaths come at a glorious price, where our heroes, and you the player, fight until the very last bullet, and when they can't shoot anymore, they pistol whip and grenade throw until their health meter hits 0. To cherry pick which one of the deaths of these characters impacted us the most might be something of a challenge, since they're all either very unexpected or just plain sad. What's emotional about all the character deaths is each of them have brief snippets of a personality behind their glossy helmets. And despite knowing they'll all meet their maker at some point in the near future, doesn't make the pain of watching them sacrifice themselves throughout the game any less painful. Number 7, LA Noire, Cole Phelps. Cole Phelps was never the most likeable of characters to play. Aside from being somewhat bland and lacking many traits we would associate with a hero, it would be said he was difficult to relate to. With his marriage fallen apart due to infidelity and the flashbacks to his time during the war reveal him to be something of a coward, rooting for him throughout became a chore. That is why it was surprising in the end to see him sacrifice himself to save Elsa and Jack Kelso. He was always a methodical figure, and in a way we believe him to always look out for number 1. But as the waves came crashing down, he surprised us all, and his death comes as a blink and miss shock. A redeeming moment for sure, and maybe that was his arc all along. At his funeral, a eulogy is given by one of the very men who sought his downfall. Only Elsa balks in protest against them. Even Jack Kelso breaks down from the fight, and what saddens us the most is that the corrupt cops and politicians he was up against never got what was coming to them. Number 6, Mass Effect 3 Legion. Does this unit have a soul? Mass Effect 3 is an emotional rollercoaster of a game, where a vast number of story arcs come to a fitting and neatly tied end, except for the actual ending, of course. Across all 3 games, one of the lingering narratives involves the war between the synthetic Geth and their creators, the Quarians. The debut of the Geth character Legion introduces a number of mind-bending concepts, none other than the possibility that the robotic alien hybrid race never wanted to go to war to begin with. With the fate of every species in the galaxy at risk, the player as Commander Shepard must unite every race together to fight the Reapers, and that includes uniting the Geth and the Quarians. After a chaotic battle and the Reapers on the planet of Rannoch, Legion changes the prime directive of the hostile Geth, but at a cost. In order to upload an upgrade that gives the Geth independence, Legion sacrifices himself in a tender scene wherein his frenemy, Talizora, offers him some parting words before dropping to his knees and leaving the game forever. Gentle and familiar music plays over Legion's sacrifice, and we're assured that he died for the greater good. Number 5, Mass Effect 3 Mordin Solus. Mass Effect 3 hits us with a number of emotional gut punches, but just ahead of Legion's death in terms of tear-jerking moments is when the Solarian scientist gives his life to curing the species-threatening disease, genophage. The disease is an overarching storyline across all 3 games that threatens the existence of the Krogan race, and it was fitting to not only see that arc tied up neatly in a bow in the 3rd installment, but in keeping with the narrative of the game, it resolved to help Shepard also recruit the devastating Krogan army in the process. With a cure of the genophage ready, Mordin notices sabotage installed by his own people would prevent any cure from being dispersed. In the player's decision, Mordin is sent to release the cure, but it costs him his life in the process. As Mordin sings a song he delightfully relayed back in Mass Effect 2, he comes to terms with his death, knowing that not only will he have saved the entire race from extinction, but righted the wrongs of his past. The sequence is complemented by a score from the franchise, and we're given a moment to let it sit. Number 4, Gears of War 3 Dom Santiago. Character development in the Gears of War series has always been a bit lacking. Considering most of the characters spoke in the same gravel-laced tones and only snippets of their lives were discussed, in a way it was difficult to get invested in any of them. Except for Dom Santiago, a man whose life was laid out from beginning to end in a very human narrative that in the 2nd game hits its peak when he euthanizes his dying wife. After that moment, Dom's life had a countdown that would run out soon. As Marcus Phoenix's best friend, we expected those two to be the very last guys back to back blasting away at the Locust army. It's in the game's midpoint when the heroes are overrun by a locust and lambent horde. Dom creates an explosion that not only saves his comrades, but gives emotional catharsis to the character as he, at least for him, is reuniting with his lost wife. Marcus Phoenix isn't the kind to feel emotions. We hardly ever see him smile, mind shed tear for a loved one, but it's seeing his reaction to his best friend's death that kills us every time. Number 3, Halo 4, Cortana. Over the course of the sprawling Halo franchise, gamers have come to know and love an array of characters, none more so than the lead hero Master Chief, but second behind him is his artificial intelligent assistant, Cortana. As the voice inside the character and the player's head, Cortana was the guiding inspiration and voice of reason, and when the series returned to the soft reboot/sequel that is Halo 4, it was troubling to catch Cortana glitching at some points in the game. When Cortana revealed that she was nearing the end of her short lifespan, I was certain there would be some Deus Ex Machina device that would repair and recover her. Oh, how I was wrong. In order to stop the Didact, Cortana fragments herself into the rogue ship and uses what good parts of her that remain to save the Spartan from the ship's destruction. It's a tender and heartfelt scene and is only bolstered more if you're aware of the affectionate connection between the two. The moment is soured though when Cortana is revealed to still be alive. Had her character stayed dead, we might have felt the emotional weight a little more. Number 2, Red Dead Redemption, John Marston. What excites us about the old Western genre is the intriguing stories and rounded character development that cuts into the gritty and lawless core of the 19th century. And this can definitely be said about Rockstar's stellar GTA but with horses, Red Dead Redemption. The player assumes the role of John Marston, a former outlaw who is forced by shady government officials to hunt and kill his old gang affiliates. After completing his mission and reuniting with his wife and son, it looks like John might have finally found peace. But there is one loose thread. Him. Of course, if the sinister government agents wanted all of Dutch van der Linde's gang dead, that would include John too. As John mounts a modest defence against the invading force, it becomes clear he and his family won't get far. As John bids farewell to his wife and son, he buys them time by defiantly walking out to face the agents and gets a few shots off before being blown away by a merciless firing squad. The character we spent hours of time getting to know is unceremoniously gunned down, and even though we avenge his death later on, it's still a mournful moment. Number 1, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, The Boss. The Metal Gear Solid franchise is never short of some truly eye-watering deaths. Genuinely emotional beats mixed with admirable character developments have left many of us shook over the years, but nothing compares to the sacrifice made by the catalyst of the entire events of the series, The Boss. As the former mentor/lover/comrade in arms of the legendary Big Boss, the boss's defection to Colonel Volgin's side was a betrayal that Naked Snake, pre-Big Boss, had to set right. At the end of the game, both warriors square off and eventually the player gets the upper hand and finishes off the recurring antagonist. But it's the revelation of her defection that leaves us chilled. The boss never defected. Her deep cover assignment into Volgin's camp meant she would have inevitably sacrificed herself and be killed by her former student to preserve her cover and protect the fragile relationship between the Americans and Russians during the Cold War. The death of the boss not only flips the entire narrative on the game's head, but in the future installments it's revealed to be the inspiration and legacy for a number of events to come. Seriously, watch this clip and tell me that you don't tear up. And that's our list. What was the hero sacrifice that really got you emotional? Leave us a comment below and let us know. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, be sure to click that subscribe button. But for now, I have been Kirsten from WhatCulture, and I'll see you in the next one.